It's time for City Beat, your source for all the latest news on the city of Thompson. Only on 102.9 CHTM, your radio station.
Good morning. You're listening to City Beat. I'm Monika, and with me today is Mayor Dennis Fenske. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning.
If you have a question you'd like to ask the mayor, you can give us a call at 677-8181. To kick things off, what's been happening around the city?
Well, we're just continuing with snow clearing, and we've got a couple water breaks on the go. Just on a personal safety share, last night noticed that I had a taillight out. Didn't know that I had one out, but just a reminder to everyone driving to check your vehicle for headlights, taillights, especially if you're heading out on the highway. With the light, we're getting a little bit more daylight, but we're still in a prolonged dark period. So check your lights, both front and back, to ensure that all the safety and backup lights are working in order.
Yeah, for sure. Good reminder. On Monday, you presented 3 residents with certificates of appreciation for essentially saving 5 people from a house fire. How did the city find out about these men, and how was it decided to recognize them? Well,
basically, it was just by chance. There was a water break on Granite that caused a traffic disruption, and one gentleman who was on Granite had to turn around because the road was blocked, and as he pulled into a driveway, looked to his left and noticed some condensation and steam, what he thought was steam coming out from the house, the side. Turned out to be smoke. Our city crew was on site to do some water break work, so the 3 of them combined their efforts to get to the house, knock on the doors, make sure to see if anybody was home. There actually were people home, and were able to get 4 people out immediately, and then they had to go back and get a 5th person out. By that time, the fire paramedics had arrived to deal with the fire. So basically, great heroic effort for all 3, and we recognized them at council on Monday night, as you stated, with a certificate of appreciation. And Doug Corman provided a little safety share and a reminder for smoke alarms that if they are battery operated, to make sure that you check the batteries every month to ensure they're working, because you never know what can happen in your homes or businesses.
Yeah, for sure. During Monday's meeting, there was also a letter from Councillor Dennis Foley. He wants council to rescind the resolution that approved a plan regarding the pedestrian crosswalk at Mystery Lake Road. We've talked about this in a previous City Beat, but tell us about the process of something like this and what happens next.
Yeah, it's a normal process, and it's not really about the content of the resolution. Basically, a month ago we dealt with the same scenario with a conditional use, and we had a councillor put forward. What a councillor has to do is, at the next regular meeting after the resolution is approved, they have to provide notice through a letter, which Councillor Foley has done, and that's served at the next regular meeting, which was done this past Monday. So then what happens is, that's just the notice notice to rescind. The following council meeting, which will be 2 Mondays from now, the resolution will come forward to rescind the existing resolution. Council will decide on whether to move forward and rescind that resolution, or to let it stand as is. If it decides to rescind, then the previous resolution that was passed in regards to the Mystery Lake Road and moving traffic away from a natural crossing there would be rescinded, and then we would back to the drawing board in regards to what the solution would be. But the process is totally appropriate through the Municipal Act, and councillors can do that on an as-needed basis if they feel strongly about it. And obviously, Councillor Collada previously did that, and this time Councillor Foley has done it. So it's well within the parameters of the Municipal Act, and we are just following the process.
Yeah, and you mentioned back to the drawing board. So would it be sent back to the Public Works Committee, or would?
Yes.
Yeah, what would happen?
Yeah, basically it's a referral from the Public Works Committee through to Council, and then if it is indeed rescinded, then the motion would be or the issue would be sent back to Public Works to reconsider and bring forth a recommendation, or just to reconsider it and bring forth options without recommendation. So that's the role of the Public Works Committee.
All right, guess we'll see what happens in the next meeting of council.
Yep.
I'm just going to remind those listening that if you have a question for Mayor Fenske, you can call us at 677-8181. The province has announced that they have conditionally approved some funding towards the Lion Seniors Manor. Why is it important for a facility like this one to be built in Thompson? How will it benefit the community?
Well, basically, we are an aging community. We began in 56 and 58 with the development of the mine, and since then we've grown to a peak of around 25,000 in the mid 70s. We're down to 13,123 at this point, but we still have an aging population. When I was younger and growing up in this community, someone older that had gray hair, you consider them visiting. They were grandma and grandpa come for a visit. Now we have lots of second, third, fourth generation people retiring here. Grandkids are here, family members are here, and so the transition from through life in regards to assisted living or seniors living, where there are accommodations for handicap accessibility and things like that, closeness or proximity to shopping, those needs increase and will ever increase in this community as we age. So this project is certainly appropriate and welcomed in the community of Thompson, and I'm sure that we'll see more in the coming years as well.
It seems like in the past few weeks there have been a number of projects sort of forged ahead thanks to residents coming together, such as this announcement. The Lions Club sort of came together, the Cancer Chemo Room last week, the French School. What does this tell you about the people in Thompson, and as mayor, seeing residents coming together like this, how does that feel?
Well, I'm very proud of the residents, whatever the issue is, and this is a northern Manitoba, Thompson type of mentality. We're a can-do community in business and in sports and in life in general. So when an issue isn't moving as fast as people would like it, whatever that issue is, then we normally have leaders, community leaders, and I'm not speaking of the elected community leaders who are leaders in their own right, step up and take the reins forward and run with the project. We saw that with Shelley Carey with the chemo unit. We've seen it with Nick DeVirgilio and Penny Byer and others in regards to the seniors housing. We've seen it on many other issues. So very proud of this community in the sense that we don't wait for others to act on our behalf, or we don't look for handouts. We usually come to the table with a solution and with a partnership to be offered. So I'm very proud of this community.
You know, power in numbers.
Absolutely.
The province has continued to take in refugees, but we're almost taking too many. Premier Greg Selinger recently said we can't take in more than about 150 people every 2 weeks. But Churchill has started to see what they can do with helping the efforts. They're currently conducting research to determine if Churchill is a suitable destination for refugees. I know you've had some meetings regarding Thompson playing a role in refugee resettlement. So what's the current status with Thompson potentially taking in refugees?
Well, right now we have no formal group stepping up to say that there is a need to assist in regards to the refugee program. That's not saying that won't come forth. It would be a positive to our community in the sense of having additional people come to our community. But you also have to, and as they've experienced Canada-wide, you have to provide the right starting point for refugees as far as housing, the potential for employment, and things like that, so that the right steps have to be in place prior to refugees coming to a community. And I think that's what the community of Churchill is going through right now. We would certainly welcome any additional people moving to our community, but in the same sense, we need to set them up for success, and that is there adequate housing? Is there adequate employment opportunities? In a lot of cases, English isn't the first language, so are there resources in place to provide training for English as a first language? And so all of those things have to be done. I would see in the future that we would have refugees coming to our community eventually, but I think they at first will probably, as they have, go to the larger centers who have the resources and the groups in place to handle the numbers right now. But I would certainly encourage anyone who wants to sponsor refugees and get the ball rolling to step up, and we'll see what we can do. For
sure. Now, on a negative note, Manitoba has been recently declared the so-called worst province when it comes to red tape. This is according to CFIB. I know this is something that more has to do with the province, and the province has control over it. But what are your thoughts on this, and do you think Thompson business owners are maybe more affected than maybe entrepreneurs down south?
Well, I think in somewhat they might be, just because of geography. Although I mean we are in a internet communications type of world today, so that type of communication is very, very quick. But I think where our businesses and entrepreneurs have issues is that we're judged basically because of the geography that we're located in as to whether or not we're a successful business or a successful idea. We're judged on our economic situations. We still get comments, and although Valet is a predominant employer in our community, we have diversified in healthcare and education and government services. But we still get questions from the south and from other investors from outside our community as to how is Valet doing as the initial point of contact, and I guess that's a frustration. In regards to the red tape question, I'm sure that people aren't always happy with, at the local level, the City of Thompson. There may be a perception that there's red tape, and we try to work through those as best we can to speed the process up. From the province and the federal governments, again, larger bureaucracies, probably a certain amount of red tape, but I think you have to put that into perspective in regards to what the province is dealing with. They're dealing with over 1 million people. They're dealing with thousands of businesses in the province, and so there's to be expected a certain amount of red tape. And again, I always take a grain of salt with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business in regards to where they pull their stats and how they quantify their statements. So again, I would take a grain of salt. Admittingly, yes, there's red tape in government. That's a given. But from the perspective of being the worst in Canada, I'd have to look at their numbers to say that it's accurate.
Fair enough. On a lighter note, Winterfest, I understand the planning is still going forward, and Rudy the Raven is supposed to make a comeback.
Yes, and we talked earlier about community initiatives and people picking up the ball and run with it, and that was another initiative. Winterfest used to be a month long. We've now solidified it into a weekend, which is the 26th and 27th of February. Councillor Foley, as the chair of Parks and Recreation, and other community members have stepped up. There's a large committee working towards the events for Winterfest, and part of that is the local Kinsman group has stepped up, and rumors have it that Rudy the Raven may make an appearance, and that would be a welcome to our community as far as just adding another flavor to the Winterfest weekend. So I'm encouraging anyone who wants to be involved in Winterfest can contact the rec department at 204-677-7952 and to follow up on what events are being planned or how they can get involved in the organization of Winterfest.
I'm curious, being someone who's grown up in Thompson, do you personally have any fond memories of Rudy the Raven?
Well, as a kid, I remember it used to be the Winterfest way back when was called the Kinsman Winter Carnival, and the Kinsman had a strong organization in our community, much like the Lions and the Rotary Club and that, and they've gone through transitions as every organization, every community has, but years ago there used to be jam pail curling, there used to be hunt for Rudy the Raven. They would hide stuffed ravens, not the actual raven, but stuffed toys
ravens
around the community, and you'd have a search for Rudy the Raven. And then there was a giant mascot. It was a giant raven, and much like Little Nick at Nickel Days, lots of fun for the kids. And they had the traditional events. I can remember and still enjoy the best bannock and butter and strawberry jam is made over a fire with some tea, red rose tea. That's the classic. And so those are the memories of my Kinsman Winter Carnival. But Winterfest is coming back strong to that weekend event, and I'm looking forward to that as well.
And I'm sure some of those old favorites will be making a comeback as well. Before we wrap up, anything else you wanted to mention for today?
Just a couple events on the weekend. Again, TRCC, busy place, Thompson Tigers hockey tournament. The girls obviously bring a lot of talent to the rink, and other teams coming in from our community. So get out there and enjoy some good hockey for these girls. Cheer them on. And secondly, of course, Norman North Stars are in town against the Winnipeg Thrashers. Again, game time Saturday night 7:30, Sunday afternoon 1:30, and come down and support the North Stars. See if we can get a couple wins.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. That wraps up this edition of City Beat. Join us next week around 11:30 to find out what's happening around the city and City Hall. For 102.9 CHTM, I'm Monika Gould.
City.
Hard to make it every day.